The armory had been Edric's for 20 years. He was the finest armorer the kingdom had produced in living memory, and this was not disputed. The other smiths worked on what was asked of them: chainmail, buckles, hinges. They arrived before light and left when the light went. Their aprons hung on hooks by the door. These hooks were worn smooth from years of the same hands, the same motion, and the same end to the same day. But Edric did not use his hook. He had begun work on his suit during the troubled years. The other men had fashioned what they needed quickly: boiled leather, riveted plates over the vital places, just enough. Edric had looked at their work and found it approximate. The suit grew across seasons: a second layer over the chest, a locking mechanism at the shoulder plate, an internal bracing that could be tightened or loosened from within without assistance. He explained these things to anyone who asked. But as the years passed, fewer men asked. The raids had stopped. The keep returned to ordinary time. The other men's armor went into storage. Some was melted down and made into something else. The hooks accumulated aprons, traveling cloaks, a child's wooden sword left there and forgotten. But Edric's suit did not go into storage. There were improvements still to make. His apprentice Spell had been with him for 3 years. He was steady. He was careful. He did what he was shown and asked only what could be answered. One morning, he arrived to find Edric at the center of the floor, one gauntleted hand raised to his shoulder plate. Pell set his tools down and watched. Edric's fingers moved across the mechanism. First position, second, and then the third. The lock did not move. He tried again, the same sequence, with the same result. Pell said nothing. He picked up his tools, went to his workbench, and began the day's first task. Behind him, Edric stood with his hand to his shoulder. He did not call for help. He did not speak. He stood in the armor, in the quiet of the armory, one hand raised, as if mid-argument with something that was no longer listening. A man can be trapped by something he built himself. That is not a rare thing. It is one of the more common ways a life goes wrong. Quietly, incrementally. Each edition reasonable at the time. The whole structure only visible from a distance that most men never achieve. The trap does not announce itself. It just accumulates. A capable mind is a tool. Like any tool, its value depends entirely on what it is applied to. A man who can think faster than those around him, reason more precisely, construct an argument others cannot dismantle, that man has something real. It serves him in most things, but in this, it does not. Because the same capacity that builds the argument also builds the defense. The same speed that finds the solution also finds the reason the solution does not apply here. The mind does not distinguish between a genuine threat and a familiar discomfort. It treats both the same way, with analysis, with qualification, with one more layer of protection. Edric did not stop building because the threat passed. He stopped being able to stop. Each addition was sound. Each lock was an improvement. Each layer of reason was in isolation, correct. That is exactly what makes this kind of trap effective. It is not built from foolishness. It is built from competence, applied past the point where competence is the right tool. The hooks by the armory door were worn smooth. Other men's hands, other men's aprons, the same motion at the end of every day. Edric's hook stayed bare. There was always more work to do. There was always a reason, and the reason was always good. Most men who are caught in this do not know it. They believe the structure they have built is simply how things are. The complexity feels like clarity. The weight feels like security. They have been inside it long enough that they cannot remember what it feels like to move without it. And if you suggest to such a man that the armor is now the problem, not the protection, he will explain to you with precision and patience why you are wrong. He will have reasons, and the reasons will be good. This is the second trap. Not just that the mind builds the walls, but that it then guards them well. A man who has constructed a sophisticated defense does not experience it as a defense. He experiences it as understanding. He is not protecting himself. He is simply seeing clearly what others are not. A man who cannot be reached by argument is not strong. He is sealed. There is a difference. Strength can receive a blow and hold. Sealed cannot be touched at all and calls that safety. Pell picked up his tools and began the day's work. He did not argue. He did not explain. He simply continued, and that continuation, that plain unqualified movement forward, was the thing Edric could not do, not because Pell was more capable, but because Pell had nothing to defend. The exit from this kind of enclosure is not found through more analysis. Every man who has tried to think his way out of a trap built by thinking has discovered this. The locks do not open from the inside, not with more force, not with better reasoning. The hand has to stop moving. The argument has to be set down. What remains after that is not nothing. It is just quieter than the man is used to.